Hi, I'm Carrie.
And I'm Molly.
And you're listening to the Two Sisters on Adventures podcast. We're really excited to talk about this episode today because this is our third day on trail, and honestly, we had a ton of fun stuff happen to us. But before that, I just wanted to make you guys all aware that every Thursday when we release this podcast, I also post pictures and videos from what we talked about that day on our Instagram and Facebook accounts. And so if you're not following those, feel free to follow them just so you can see some of those pictures and videos. The handle is Two Sisters on Adventures, and 2 is spelled with the number 2, not with the letters. So let's go ahead and dig into our episode today. So where we left off last week, we were camping by Shadow Lake. I was going to call it Silver Lake, and I knew that wasn't right, but Molly's got a thing written here that says Shadow Lake, so I had to look at it first. So we were camping by Shadow Lake. It was that beautiful, really nice campsite that was just so peaceful and quiet. And right away, going up from Shadow Lake, first of all, you're like, wow, this is just so beautiful.
Well, I would say before that, I'm thinking about when we made breakfast, and so we had to walk down to Shadow Creek, I think, to get our water. Is that what we did, or do we bring water with us for breakfast?
I think we went down. Well, I think you went down to get water.
So I just remember feeling particularly industrious that morning because I had to walk down to the creek and back up with our water for the day.
Yep.
And then I remember that was kind of a fun filter when we filled up all of our bottles for the day ahead. I don't know. It was just like such
really remember a lot of details about filtering water. I just remember being like, let's filter this water and get out of here.
I remember because I feel like that was where we filled up all of our bottles, and so we went with 1 liter, or was it 1.5 liter?
2 liter.
Oh, 2 liter. So we had two 2-liter Smart Waters?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about our Canuck.
Oh, no.
No, okay. Yeah, we have 2 1-liter Smart Water bottles. That's what we carry for water.
Historically, we would use bladders and 3-liter bladders. And then when we got the permit for the JMT, we saw everyone does it the PCT hiker way where they have their 2 Smart Water bottles. Yep. And so we were like, well, let's do it that way.
It's a lot easier. You don't have to get your water bladder out and then pull all, basically to get your water bladder out for us when you have to unpack your entire backpack. You take out all of your stuff, and then you pull out your water bladder.
And sometimes your sleeping bag, it starts to roll down the hill.
You're like, not my sleeping bag! And then, you're trying to put it back in, and you're in a hurry, and you're just jamming it, and I've, been there just trying to punch my sleeping bag aggressively into my pack, because I'm like, this is taking too long! And so we decided not to deal with that for when we were going to get
we did the Smart Water bottles, and I just remember where we filtered the water, it was this rock and it was all dusty, and I filled up all the bottles, and then I was going to empty out the rest of our dirty bladder, and I just poured it straight out, and mud just splattered everywhere, and so we were just covered in mud.
And actually, then my water bottle rolled into the mud, and then my water bottle had mud all over it too.
So it was, and I feel like it was that time of day, it was cool enough that we got water splashed on us, and we're like, brr. Cold.
Yeah, it was cold in the morning.
But it got warmer later in the day.
And this is one of those stretches where there's not a lot of good water to be found between there and Red's Meadow. I don't think we refilled at all. I think there was one, kind of small...
Oh, there was a lake I think we maybe walked past.
Yeah, well, lake is a loose term. Yeah. It was September, so there's less water, and it was a marshy bug area, and I was just like, I don't feel the need for that. But anyway, so
we walked by Shadow Lake, and that one was
super beautiful.
Pretty. It was
there was a duck swimming, but the water was completely glassy, so it had the little thing behind it. It looked like a painting, honestly.
Exactly. And then we talked about with our last episode, when we go through this area that has particular amount of lakes, it's just anytime you get to the lake, you have to then go uphill and then downhill to the next. So we hit a decent amount of elevation gain early, but we did leave camp at 8:15, which I was proud of.
15 minutes early.
I know. Woo! And so we got to hit the first ascent in the cool of the day, and that felt really nice.
And I do think, though, that I hadn't expected it to be such an ascent, right? Because it's not a pass. Even though the day before we'd just gotten through the thing where it was down and up by all the lakes, I don't know why, but I wasn't really ready for it to be that much ascent. And I feel like Molly particularly kind of had a little bit of trouble on it.
Yeah, honestly, so the ascent from Shadow Lake, it was almost 1,000 feet over the course of a couple miles, 2 miles. So that's a pretty decent
not a terrible
grade.
But in the morning, for whatever reason, when I have to go uphill, I'm just like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
I never like to go uphill in the morning. And then it was 2,000 feet of descent over 8 miles until we hit the bottom point, and then we ascended actually to Red's Meadow that day. Yep. And so, we started out cool of the day. I think I even maybe saw 1 or 2 mosquitoes, and I was like, oh gosh, but then no more mosquitoes after that.
That's probably our only mosquitoes in the entire Sierras.
And that's one of the reasons we chose September was because
I don't need to be did
not need that. Anyways, so we started the descent, and at that point it was starting to get warmer, and there's some tree cover, but the sun must have been the angle of the sun and the southern facing kind of slope. It was fairly sunny, fairly hot, so we had Carrie had found some Mountain Hardwear.
Hooded.
I
will have to find a link for those, because those are such awesome shirts. They're like sun shirts in a way, but they also will keep you warm, and they just evaporate the sweat right off of you. So,
and we did learn that day we were wearing tank tops because it was pretty hot.
It was in the 80s.
But then we put the sun shirts on over them, and we were getting pretty hot, and then I think Carrie had the epiphany of let's take our tank tops off and just wear the sun shirt only. And it was way better. It regulated temperature quite nicely.
And we also hiked through a burn area that day. Yeah. And so it was just full sun. You're at a high altitude, and you're supposed to be drinking more water because you're at a high altitude. You're supposed to be replacing electrolytes.
Totally.
But unfortunately, it kind of was just hard to do that when you don't have a lot of great water sources that day,
Yeah, so, we'd gone uphill in the morning, and then we kind of just started this long, 8 miles where you're descending. And, in general, I love that. You can just flow downhill. But I think being the third day on the trail and just, my body was still, I feel not quite into the rhythm of being on trail, which felt odd because I feel I've done so many backpacking trips where day 3, you're just cruising.
Yeah, you just get up and go.
Day 3 felt hard for me, and that downhill, there was actually a couple times where in my mind I started to think wow, can I actually do this? Because my legs feel tired. I wasn't in pain, but I just was feeling sore, and my body physically felt very tired. And that you can't just stop and rest all the time because you're never going to get anywhere.
Well, we needed to get to Red's Meadow timely enough that we could pick up our bucket. I don't remember what time they closed. It might be 4:30.
Yeah. So
I think that you can't pick up your bucket anymore, and that might be incorrect. So you'll have to do your own research on that. But we had kind of a time limit, and 12 miles is not that bad of a day for us, really, but you never want to set yourself up where, suddenly, not only can you not pick up your stuff, you also can't get, the hot lunch that they offer at Red's Meadow,
So we had a little bit of a time frame attached to it, but I wish I could remember the key to, working through that, little bit of a tough spot. And I think, honestly, I just was able to tell myself, you know what, you've done this before. You can do it again. Just keep walking. And I think it took me, I was 3 or 4 miles that I was not feeling, my legs were just not feeling good. And then all of a sudden, I feel I found my downhill gear, and then we were able to cruise. So just a good reminder, even, sometimes you're just not going to feel wonderful on the trail, but that's okay. You've done something like this before. You can continue to do it. You're going to be fine. And you just have to be able to work through those tough spots.
And that was just such an interesting part of the trail, too. I feel there really wasn't another section of trail like that. Because the area around Red's Meadow is actually kind of volcanic in nature. So the ground is really dusty. It's kind of gravelly. And a lot of the John Muir Trail, is more of that Sierra granite type of thing.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't realize it was volcanic there at first until that night we ended up camping by a cinder cone. And I was like, cinder cone?
Yeah.
This is volcano. But it was kind of one of those things where, it's just a little bit demoralizing, right? It's hot. The sun's beating down on you.
There's
you
no
can't
tree
get
cover.
There's no really nice, fresh flowing water. And there probably is earlier in the year. But there's no tree cover, and you're just kind of trying to grind it out and deal with it, and it's going to be fine. And this is also a really interesting area, too, because that's actually where Devil's Postpile National Monument is. And we walked past the junction for it, but we actually did not go to Devil's Postpile Monument, which I think most people do go to Devil's Postpile. But we did not want to add on more mileage, which later on, we actually think that we would have just been able to junction and do it just fine. And it probably would have been worth going to see. But it was kind of funny because as we kept walking along the trail, you kind of ascend at that point, and you're kind of, there's kind of like a river and a canyon type thing next to you. And it was so funny because we were looking across the canyon, and Molly was like, wow, that's such like an interesting rock formation over there.
Columns,
yeah, there's like columns, and it's like kind of collapsed at the bottom. I was like, oh my goodness. I think we're literally looking at Devil's Potpile National Monument from across a freaking river. But it was okay, honestly. It was actually really cool to see from the other side. I'm sure it would have been cooler to stand in front of it or something, but it was kind of fun to just look at and
it was one of those moments that feels so funny because here you've been walking, I don't even know how many miles we were from our trailhead, but like probably 30 plus. Yeah. And you can see like there's like a paved path at the top of...
There's a parking lot, actually. There's a visitor center.
I don't think that we saw cars, but you could see people like walking on a paved pathway. And so here you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, but like across this river are these people on a paved path, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, oh, there's civilization. I didn't have to do this to get out here. I could have just been in my car driving around.
But hey, it was way better to be
I would rather not be in my car driving around.
Exactly.
And so we just kind of made our way down to Red's Meadow. And you may remember Red's Meadow we talked about is one of the resupply points on the John Muir Trail. It's a very common resupply point. And so the thing that's funny is you might say, like, you've only been on trail for 3 days. Why do you need a resupply? But you may remember that originally we were going to try to leave from Happy Valley. So we would have
Happy Isles.
Or sorry, Happy Valley.
What even is Happy Valley?
I swear there is a Happy Valley. We were trying to leave from Happy Isles, and so that would have been 5 days on the trail at that point. And then it was another like 5-ish days to Muir Trail Ranch, I want to say. And
something
so
like that.
We didn't want to really start our journey carrying 8 to 10 days of food because we knew we were going to have to carry more days of food towards the end. So we said, you know what, rather than just trying to shoulder it all and say, I don't want to do a resupply, we're just going to go to Red's Meadow. And I felt like that was also kind of part of the experience
and we planned our itinerary so that we would do, I think it was like 15 to 16 and a half mile days is kind of the math how it worked out. And so like adding in Red's Meadow, we weren't like feeling like we were racing necessarily though. Like we wanted to do a pace where it was like, we knew we could do it. We weren't taking a super long amount of time to do the John Muir Trail, but that, I don't know, we like had a little bit of flexibility where we could take a little bit of an afternoon and just relax a little.
To have fun.
Yeah.
And I know you may recoil and cringe to hear that word used on a thru hike. But
that's awesome.
We wanted to enjoy ourselves, and I never wanted us to feel like we had to push the pace so hard, and you can't stop, and you can't look at stuff, and you can't enjoy it because you just have to keep going. Which you might say, well, then why didn't you go to Devil's Postpile? I didn't want to walk more. I'm not saying I want to walk more.
Yeah.
I'm saying I want to have fun.
There you go.
An extra 1 mile in 211 miles, how dare they,
Exactly.
But it's one of those things where I think it's fine to do one resupply if that's what you want, if that's your goal. But I also think it's fine to do 2.
Yeah.
And
so honestly, you could do 3. Like it's all about what you want.
Yep.
And you don't have to compare your through hike to someone else's. It's about having, I guess, that word that you said. What was it again?
Hike your own hike. Is that it?
No.
Fun. So we rolled into Red's Meadow at about 1 p.m., which we were pretty happy with because their grill was still open for lunch. And you may say, didn't you just eat normal people food a few days ago? Yes, but you can really hype yourself up. I was reading my trail journal for this day, and I must have just been really romanticizing food because I was writing stuff like, we had a burger. How delicious. Ice in my lemonade. Revolutionary. I'm like, what? Who even writes that way? But ice in the drink that day was a 10 out of 10.
And I think I looked and it was like 85 degrees when we were.
It was hot.
It was warm. And even like one of my favorite things about being on the trail is like you don't get those wonderful things like ice in your beverage.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden everything that is just normal about life feels like so above and beyond.
Yeah.
And it brings you this like real sense of joy and happiness like Carrie was reflecting in her journal. Yeah. So we both got grilled cheese sandwiches, I think.
Yep.
And then, I'm going to go for vegetables anytime I can because I'm just vegetable deprived when I'm in the wilderness. And so I got a salad and poor Carrie, she got a macaroni salad.
I was devastated because I did not realize I could get a salad. And so I just got the macaroni salad and I don't like macaroni salad. So I threw it away in the end and I was like, what? Just watching her chow down on her salad with ranch.
And I swear the grilled cheese sandwich, it was like a strip, like it was like a American cheese. Like I think they had probably peeled it out of the little plastic sleeve and slapped it on there.
Amazing.
And I would rank it like maybe the best grilled cheese sandwich I've ever had.
It was so good. Yeah, and I think the saddest part of that day was I saw that I could get a milkshake, and I said I would like a milkshake, and they said we're out of ice cream. I was like, okay.
And are you going to tell about the saddest part?
Then the worst part was, at dinner time, I didn't ask for ice cream because they were out of ice cream, and then as we were leaving, I saw someone drinking a milkshake, and they had just gotten more ice cream.
And it looked amazing.
But it was too late for us, so I was a little bit upset about that.
I can't remember if we got our bucket before we had lunch, or if we ate our lunch and
I think that we ate our lunch before we did anything else because we were hungry. It was 1:00. We hadn't really had anything.
And so we came to Red's Meadow with an agenda. Yeah. And when we say Red's Meadow, like they call it a resort, and it would remind me kind of almost like a camp. Maybe.
It's like a campground.
It's like they have some A-frame cabins. Yep. They have a spot where you can pitch your tent if you want to pay $25 a night to.
Which
pitch a tent
originally
there.
we were gonna do it, and then. You'll hear later we felt refreshed and we didn't.
They have a bathroom. They have like a shower room. You can do laundry. Then they have like a little store where you can buy some stuff. So I think if you needed to like buy any like essential items,
they have some items.
And then I think you can catch a bus there into Mammoth Lakes at certain times.
If you want to resupply for cheaper.
Exactly. And then do they have Wi-Fi there?
I don't know. They had service. And that's what actually makes a difference, right? So anyways, it was kind of nice because we rolled in there and we decided, so I think we had lunch first.
Yeah.
Then we went and got our bucket and we decided that we were going to take showers and do laundry just because why not? Like, just enjoy yourself. And the next resupply point that we were going to go to was Muir Trail Ranch, and you can't shower or do any of that there.
Yeah.
So we didn't know at this point that we were going to go to VVR.
So this is like our only shower. We were like,
this is our only shower, and who cares that it's 3 days in?
And people do ask, like, what do we do to keep ourselves clean on the trail? And so we never, sometimes we'll go swimming in lakes, but I felt like it was always too cold to go swimming on this.
It was, it was so cold.
I mean, the first couple days were hot, but so
there were not good swimming points the first couple days where we camped.
So we pretty much just go the wilderness wipes route and do like your own little
wipe
wilderness
yourself down at night, and that's good enough, right? Now
exactly.
I'm clean.
So a shower is a real treat.
A shower was a real treat. So we each took a shower, and then it's kind of funny because you also do your laundry, but you don't really want to wear your dirty clothes. So Molly and I had each brought a pair of long pants in case there was bad weather. And so it's like you take your shower, you put on your long pants, and you wear your rain jacket, and your laundry goes.
Yep.
And so it's just like kind of hilarious the way that you are
and it was
there.
Funny because, so Carrie and I, we didn't know if we should bring cash or credit cards on the John Muir Trail. Like, what do people accept? Yeah. So we both brought a credit card, and then we both brought
$200 in cash.
A couple $100 in cash.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know what we would need.
Would accept,
And we didn't even know, I guess at that point we knew we didn't have to hitchhike to leave. So, but yeah, we just didn't know what we would need. So, you have to get little tokens
to run the showers.
Is it a token or quarters?
It's a token for the shower.
Yeah, so you have to get tokens for the showers, but then you need quarters for laundry. Yep. And so I got some quarters for laundry and tokens for the shower, and then I realized you have to buy if you don't bring soap and shampoo on the trail, you have to buy it. So I have to go back and buy it, and I feel I didn't know.
Had no conditioner, which is really bad for me because my hair is I would love to be just one big gnarl. But it worked out.
And so I didn't even know how many quarters I needed for laundry. So I feel I got it was ridiculous, $6 in quarters. And by the time we'd done our laundry, I think I probably had 20 quarters that I carried with me on
the rest of the trail.
On the rest of the trail, because I thought, okay, well, now I have quarters to use if we ever go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And by the time we got to VVR, they actually do your stuff.
Everything's on a tab.
It's on a tab, so I just had to keep carrying quarters, and it felt this is not ultra light
at
all.
It's jangling around in the wilderness. What am I going to use my quarters for today?
Exactly.
Maybe a squirrel. Anyways, so it was just kind of funny because you're out there just wearing your raincoat and pants, and you got your laundry going, and it was kind of interesting because Red's Meadow is kind of a mecca for people on the John Muir Trail, people on the PCT. They stop in and they do their laundry and all that kind of stuff, and they charge their devices. So there's probably about 10 spots where you can plug in your phone, and then all these signs that are do not unplug the washer and dryer. to charge your phone. You cannot charge your phone here. But it's September again.
Yeah.
So these are not all taken up. So Molly and I could charge our phones. And ultimately, I actually considered and tried to research this a lot. And so here's just what you might need to know. On the trail, I brought a wall plug-in, like the plug-in, I don't know. You know what a wall plug-in is for a cell phone. I'm not going to describe it any more than that. I'm trying to describe it. It's white, and the prongs go into the wall to get the electricity. Anyway, you can just Google it if you need to. And then we also brought like a USB one. And I would say I'm so glad. I almost didn't bring the wall adapter because I thought maybe it's all just USB. But there was only one USB charging spot and everything else just needed a regular wall plug-in. So we charged our phones. We charged our battery packs. A lot of people ask what kind of... what we use to charge our phone when we're on the trail. And of course your phone's in airplane mode, so you don't lose service that quickly. But we do use it.
Battery.
Or sorry, we don't, you lose service very quickly when it's in airplane mode. But we bring the Nightcore phone charger.
Like the power bank.
Yeah, power bank. And so we use that to charge our phone pretty much every day and watches. And it would just need like a little bit of a charge.
And then is it called a USB-C?
Yeah, and we actually brought... So it seemed like we were pretty excessive, but I don't regret it, and it's exactly what I would do again. We brought a USB-C wall plug-in so that it would charge our power banks and phones really fast. And I'm thankful that we did because it charged it in like an hour, where I think it would have probably taken 4 hours with a regular wall plug-in. And then we also brought one USB cord so that if we were at some place that was only a only a USB, we could use it. But I think that was such a hack that I gotta say, my brother Mark told me, he said you need a USB-C, and I was like,
what is USB-C?
I don't know technology. But he does, luckily, and so he gave us that advice, and it worked really good. So I would totally recommend bring the wall charger plug-in, try a USB-C, and it'll just make your life a lot easier.
And then just make sure you have all the right cords for your different like power bank and everything before you leave, because the worst thing would be to like not have the correct cord to charge your power bank and then lose out on that. So just things to consider. And talking about how Res Meadow can be so busy like in peak season on the PCT, it was kind of funny because there are 2 washing machines and 2 dryers there, but there was like this big deep sink behind the kitchen, and there's a sign on it that's like, do not do your laundry in here. So I can't even imagine what it would be like if it was just filled with people and everyone's trying to charge something, everyone's trying to wash something. It must be like a very cool vibe.
Honestly, I bet it's really fun. So we got to Res Meadow, we picked up our resupply bucket. Everything was there, luckily, all that we needed. And we just like took it to one of their picnic tables, and you just kind of start sorting through it. You kind of figure out like, okay, this is the stuff I want to take. This is the stuff I want to leave. And it's interesting because at those places, they have buckets where you can put your excess food in them. And it was really funny because Res Meadow is technically a resort. So there are people who come and they just kind of camp there, and maybe they go on a day hike, or maybe they ride a mule train. They probably
go to Devil's Postpile.
Yeah, they probably actually are people who see Devil's Postpile, unlike us. Good for them. But it was kind of one of those things that would crack us up because those people would see us, and I'm guessing they're noticing that we're kind of dirty and we've got backpacks. Yeah. And they'd come over and they'd be like, wow, are you guys hiking the Pacific Coast Trail? Which was just a little laugh for us because it's the Pacific Crest Trail. We'd be like, no, we're hiking the John Muir Trail. And so they'd have all kinds of questions about stuff, but we had to really crack up because there was this group of people who just loved looking through the hiker resupply bucket, and they'd be like, wow, this person left behind their beef jerky. You think they didn't want to bring their beef jerky on the trail?
And then they'd like take the beef jerky and then they would be eating it. And it's like,
hold on.
You're not a through hiker, you're just a resort guest.
Yeah, you can buy beef jerky tomorrow. This beef jerky is for people who might not have any for the next 15 days. So we kind of had to laugh at them, like going through the bucket and like itemizing each thing and be, oh, very interesting. They left their hand sanitizer, you know what I mean?
And so we were going through, and Carrie's like the resupply like guru. Like she's got the bear can figured out. She's got it on its side. She's packing it in layers. Layering. Yeah. And this guy walks up to us with a package of thin Oreos, and he's like, hey, I heard that these thin Oreos are perfect for through hikers. Yeah. Would you like some? And we were like, oh, well, thank you. Mm-hmm. And it was a kind gesture, but he also was just trying to get rid of them.
He was like, he'd already filled filled it up.
And so
but we got to visiting with him, and it was these two guys, Matt and Peter. They were just the nicest dudes. And in a way, I feel like it was kind of nice to us because there was another group of guys there who were kind of, I don't know, they were just they were kind of behaving really inappropriately and weird. And it's kind of one of those things where you're like, oh, like, these are the other people on the trail with me?
Yeah.
But Matt and Peter were just so nice and friendly, and we really got to talking with them because they were from Portland. So, obviously, we're pretty familiar with that area, so we could talk about the same places that we love, and we kind of had to laugh because they had seen themselves Tillamook cheese in their resupply bucket, which, like, what is more Oregon than that? But they were doing a high traverse that was off trail, and so they were just going by their maps, and they'd mailed themselves new shoes, I think, right? Because they'd already done, like, somehow their route was going to take them 500 miles, I think.
Yeah.
And
they were going, like, really far south,
yeah,
too.
they were just super legit, and they were talking about how they hope to be at Whitney on a certain day, and we were kind of hoping we would meet them there, but sadly we didn't. They were just, like, the nicest dudes, and I feel like they were so reassuring too, because they just kept being like, oh, you guys are doing great, you guys are gonna love your experience. Like, one of them had hiked the John Muir Trail before, and he would be like, you guys are it's just gonna get more and more beautiful, and like, you guys are so smart to be doing it south. Like, he was just like affirming every decision, like, you guys, of course you want to do it southbound, you're like gonna leave the most beautiful stuff for the end.
And I even liked it because, like, one of the reasons that we chose southbound was because we were going to start with a lower altitude and then increase our elevation as we went so we could acclimatize instead of starting with Mount Whitney. And so we were talking to one of the guys, either Matt or Peter, and he was like, you guys are just going to run up Mount Whitney. Because you're going to be so conditioned, you're going to be so strong. And it's like,
awesome
we didn't run up Mount Whitney, but we did fine.
Felt good,
And I almost feel like their words were like ringing in my ears the rest of the hike. Like, when I started to feel a little bit concerned or nervous, I was like, you know what? No, Matt and Peter said, you're going to run up Mount Whitney. You're doing it the right way. Like, and there is no right way, but it's just like,
but I just felt like it was so special to have someone come and kind of just like,
it was reassuring.
Say, like, you guys are doing the right thing and you're going to love it. Because I think that one thing about the backpacking world is people can get really into a negative headspace, and they like to often share that negative headspace with others. And so it's awesome anytime that you can have an interaction where either you are encouraging to someone or someone else is encouraging to you. Because we also met a couple girls later that afternoon, and they were headed northbound, so they're almost to the end of their journey, and they were really excited.
They'd gotten through like a lot of tough passes, right?
Tough passes, and I think there'd been thunderstorms for them and stuff, and so they...
Oh, and they'd been followed by, like, a coyote for, like, miles, and they were, like, freaked out.
And so it was one of those things where it was really nice to visit with them because they were excited to be almost at the end. But the flip side of that was, if I'd asked them for stuff, like, information about the trail, the only information that they really wanted to give me was negative, kind of like, well, you're gonna hate going up X, Y, and Z pass. And I'm not even gonna say it because if someone's gonna do the John Muir Trail, I don't want them to already have that in their head.
Honestly.
They would be like, you're gonna hate going up this pass because, like, when we were going down, we said we would never want to go up it, and you're gonna hate going up this other pass. It's gonna be really, really hard. It's gonna be really difficult. And this stretch is not that nice. And this other stretch is like they were trying to tell us, don't camp at this one lake because that's where a coyote was. Which we definitely camped there.
Yeah, and no coyote.
And there was not a coyote.
Did you talk to them before Matt and Peter or after?
I think it was after, because I think Matt and Peter had already kind of rolled out.
Yeah.
Because Matt and Peter had gotten there they had gotten there for breakfast.
Oh, that's right. Good
they are early risers, evidently. And so they left first, but it was like one of those things where it's just kind of like, I don't really need to hear all the variables that I can't control. Like, maybe I will have a hard time on that pass, but I don't need to already have it built up in my head as something that I'm gonna hate. And so that's something where I really tried to have a little bit of self-control when I would meet people on the trail now, where I don't know someone's fitness level, and so I can't assume that they're gonna have difficult problems, with whatever I have. So I try to just say things like, oh, X, Y, and Z pass is gonna be really beautiful. And if they want to know how hard it is, I might say, it's challenging, but you can do it because you're already doing the John Muir Trail, so you're going to be okay. And I think that's just something that's really important to keep in mind, because I have had tons of interactions over the years with people who just want to tell you the negative parts. And I think that's so normal, right? We're all human. We get stuck on the negative parts. We want to warn people. But they did give us useful information, like, you need to carry more water on this area because there's no good water spots.
This is an area where you're not going to have cell service for, like, this many miles.
Yeah, and so I just think that it's one of those things where you kind of have to be careful and have a little bit of self-control and think about you know, how can I make another person's hike better? Because I feel like we just, like, rode such a high after talking to Matt and Peter.
Yeah.
And we still talk about them like, they were the nicest dudes. I hope that they had a great time on their trip. I wonder when they made it to Mount Whitney. You know, and we don't know them at all other than that.
And
that
so it's
40-minute conversation.
It's like, once again, the skills that you can practice in the wilderness, and then you can also take home with you, because it's not just on a trail in the wilderness that you have negativity surround you, and you can choose to either really focus on it, or you can choose to say, like, this is this person's experience and my experience will be different. I can, like, take that information into account, but I don't need my hike or my life to be ruined because I'm worried about something that someone told me. So it's one of those things where you can take that skill, whether or not you're a through hiker, just into your daily life and build that awareness. And it's funny because sometimes Carrie and I, like, a person's coming towards you and you can tell they're in a rough spot, and it's okay to talk it out, but you almost, like, wish they wouldn't tell you.
Don't talk to them because they're going to be really negative.
Exactly.
Or I would just not ask them what it was going to be like up ahead. I would just say something like, what was the most beautiful part of the trail that you've been on so far? Because sometimes you just need to give yourself something to look forward to versus just being like, well, it's going to be real bad.
Initially, Carrie and I had thought about actually spending the night at Red's Meadow. But then I don't know why we got, like, so weirdly, like, cheap. We were like, wait, do we really want to pay $25 just to sleep in our tent and be able to use a toilet when we could actually just go a little bit further down the trail and camp for free?
And another thing that really upset me was... Okay, I wasn't that upset about it, so I can't really complain. So at Red's Meadow, there's not, like, a running river right next to it, and actually the closest water source had, like, blue-green algae bloom or something, so you weren't even supposed to drink from it, remember?
But they had a water you could drink
Well,
from.
that's what I was going to say. They had a water spout that you could drink from, and I am, like, so sensitive to how water tastes, and I've just been having Sierra water, fresh, running, glacial melt, runoff, delicious stuff. And it's like that water was like...
it was so bad.
Sort of bad to me. I could barely even drink it. And that. No disrespect to them. You know, that's just, it is what it is. But I was like already
that the, main factor?
I was really motivated by that. I was kind of like, I need to hydrate. And then I'd be like, this tastes so bad. And I was just like, you know what? I bet that there's more water down the trail, because I'd looked and I saw there was a campsite about 3 miles away.
Yeah.
And we were just feeling good. We were feeling strong. We were feeling rested. We were feeling full. And I was like, you know what, Molly? They start serving dinner at, I want to say, like 4:30.
Yeah.
What if we just order our food immediately when it opens, and then we just get right on the trail, get a few miles between us and people who are negative. I honestly kind of was like I had a little bit of like, I don't want to talk to them because they were going to stay there and they were really nice, but I just didn't want to talk anymore about negative things because I was like, I have a lot of time left on this trail and I can't get in my head anymore.
Honestly, though.
I just want to go and I want to enjoy. And like a thunderstorm was kind of brewing, but it went around us, which was awesome. And so I just was like, you know, Molly, would you want to just get dinner and then roll out of here? And she was like, absolutely. So the second the grill opened, we ordered our cheeseburgers. And I'm not even that much of a burger girl, but that was amazing. And we got our salads. And I don't know. I went and I got some delicious 2% milk. Where are you going to find that on the trail? Nowhere, let me tell you. The bears do not share. Just kidding. Anyway.
We just had like such a good dinner and did you even feel nervous that we were going to go back out into the wilderness?
I was like kind of excited for it because like it was fun to be around people, but I also, once we made up our minds, I was like, I'm good to go.
I went to the bathroom probably like 8 times.
I just kept sitting in there. I was like, it's like a chair. You can go to the bathroom on it. I was like washing my hands like every chance I could get. So obviously we went, we ate our food, we went to the bathroom, and then we just started hiking up. And that was such a good choice for us because we had like one of the most beautiful sunsets on trail that night.
Like the thunderstorm had kind of blown past, and then there were still those like clouds over the whole like Sierra range to the west of us. And so as we were hiking south, like we could just enjoy like all the clouds as they were changing colors as like the sun was getting lower in the sky. And it was like in the 60s now, so it was like 20, 25 degrees cooler than it was earlier in the day. Yeah, and there's just something about being clean I feel like I didn't even sweat. Like we gained like a good 1,000 feet over 3.5 miles, and we were doing like 3-mile-an-hour pace the whole time. And I think
that we had looked at the elevation too and said, we feel so bad in the mornings when we do our elevation.
Honestly, yeah.
And I think that we were thinking about too how it's supposed to be hot again tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's cool right now.
Yeah.
We can just get some elevation out of the way in the cool of the day, and then like that long stretch that we knew was coming up that was also going to be hot and not have a ton of water sources, we could try to roll through that early in the day the next day.
So it was just like a delightful 3-mile walk.
I feel happy right now just thinking about it.
Me too. And that was a cool spot because we went back into some trees, and then the trail was a little bit more of like that sandy kind of dirt. And so we started seeing human footprints in the soil.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
I forgot about that.
Apparently there was a person who had hiked, I think, the whole trail barefoot.
Yeah.
Sometime around the time we went. And so we never met that person, but we did see a lot of footprints.
Wasn't it a friend of our friend's mom?
There's some connection there.
They texted us and they were like, that was our mom's friend of a friend. But yeah, we were like seeing human footprints, was just a little bit weird.
Yeah.
And we just rolled into our campsite, and it was
Red Cinder Cone Camp.
Yeah, it was kind of it was a high campsite, so you had kind of a nice view of the valley below.
There was a nice little stream that was fairly close to where we camped.
And it was like a little bit cold, and it tasted a lot better than the Red's Meadow water. And it felt so good.
The soil was so nice to pitch a tent on, because it was kind of that like gravelly volcanic soil, but it was
not river rock?
Yep, nope. It didn't rip our tent this time.
No.
So we pitched our tent, and like we enjoyed, I think, the best sunset of our whole trip.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, how cool we could enjoy it from that high vantage point.
And another thing that's nice is normally when we roll into camp, it's like time to make dinner.
Yeah.
And you have to do all these chores.
Oh my gosh.
But we'd already had our dinner, and I think did we have a dessert that night? I don't think we did. I think we talked about having one, and then we were just too lazy. But it was just like fun to pitch your tent and watch the sunset and just enjoy.
Yeah, it was like a nice rhythm to end the day, and I like felt like in such good spirits after that, especially like compared to hours earlier when I first started to descend, how it was hot and I was feeling tired, and I was like, can I do this? And then like fast forward to the end of the day, feeling like confident, like, you know what, I can do this, and this is fun.
Peter said we could.
Yeah, Peter said we could do it. And so it was kind of funny because so Carrie and I, we went for the longest time with one trowel because
this is for bathroom needs, by the way.
Exactly. So for the longest time we've hiked with only one trowel because
we actually were hiking with a garden trowel, by the way. We were always like, why would I spend money on a lightweight trowel when I have this perfectly good one from my garden? So we didn't want to carry 2 heavy trowels. But right before this trip started, Molly and I always need to go to the bathroom at like the exact same time. And Molly happens to be a little quicker than me a lot of the time to get out of bed in the morning. And so she'll get out and she'll spend, 45 minutes, an hour digging herself a hole that's perfect and beautiful and wonderful. And I'm laying in the tent like, when's she going to come back? When's she going to come back? When's she going to come back? I'm going to go in my sleeping bag. I need to go right now. I'm going to go right now. And then she'll come back like, oh, I didn't need to go yet, but I did get my hole all prepped and it's going to be wonderful. And then it's like, I literally am going to go right now and I'm going to have to deal with the consequences of that later almost. And so I finally said to Molly, I said, you know what? I have been thinking about this, and bringing one trowel is creating a lot more trouble than it's like solving. It's not solving any problem, it's creating them. So we each got our own personal trowel for this trip because I was over that experience.
And so I could do like the nice courtesy because it was such a nice like evening and sunset that
we had a little extra time.
Carrie was blowing up our sleeping pads.
Yeah, that was my job.
I could go with a trowel and like pre-dig our cat holes for the next morning, which almost feels like having a bathroom at that point.
Oh, yeah, it's like the same thing.
And then I felt like a little bit concerned because I was like, okay, Carrie, so you walk down the trail till it curves a little, and then you're going to go directly uphill, and then you're going to see a stand of trees, and then you have to go behind that tree. And I thought, like, how will she even find it? But you found it, right?
Well, now I'm thinking about it. Didn't I find a different hole? Because in the end, weren't there 3 holes over there? And we were like, where did the 3rd hole come from?
I don't know. Oh, gosh. Who knows?
I think I found a random... Or maybe I found it. But either way, the next morning, we'd already set ourselves up for a pleasant, successful morning.
Honestly.
With our pre-dug cat holes and our trowels and our sunset. And so that was just honestly a really, really nice day on the trail. Even though about 4 hours of it was not on the trail, it was just kind of hanging out, rehydrating.
And that's where, right, you get to make your decision.
Yeah.
What do you want your hike to be? Do you want it to be all wilderness focused? You
Yeah,
don't want to
which is
resupply.
fine.
You want to like hustle through it because that's a physical challenge
Yeah.
and that makes you happy? Or do you want to have like a day or two planned in to just refresh yourself and then enjoy how you feel after that? And you get to do you, but we had a really fun time.
Thank you so much for listening to yet another episode of the Two Sisters on Adventures podcast. And I just want to remind you guys that if you have any questions, I'm going to put up a question box, and I decided the day will be Fridays. So I'll put up a question box on Friday, and you guys can put any questions you have from this episode in the question box. Or as always, you are totally welcome to message us. We love answering questions. Sometimes I think I answer them too in-depth. So if you get like 3 messages in response from me, don't be freaked out. It's normal. But we really appreciate you guys listening to us, and we hope you enjoyed.
Okay, bye.